Arena rock packed the charts in the 80s, but plenty of sharp outfits slipped below the neon. These 13 bands toured hard, cut strong records, and still wound up fighting for shelf space next to bigger hair and brighter videos. Number 1, The Call.
To the preachers of the sacred words.
Formed in Santa Cruz in 1980, The Call mixed ringing guitars with Michael Bean's preacher deep voice and lyrics that read like the dispatches from the front line of the human soul. Their self-titled debut earned a phone-in from Peter Gabriel, who called Bean the future of American music, and later hired the band as his support act on the 1983 Plays Live tour. MTV put The Walls Came Down in medium rotation that same year. The track stalled at number 74 on the Hot 100, but hit number 4 on Billboard's rock chart, squeezed between Police and Tom Petty.
Sanctuary fades. The congregations.
U2's Bono wore a Call t-shirt during early war shows, yet sales never caught up with the praise. 1986's Reconciled moved a modest 150,000 U.S. copies, despite guests from Simple Minds and Garth Hudson. Their concert resume, though, reads like a festival poster. Opening slots for Peter Gabriel, Simple Minds, and even a few arena dates with the Psychedelic Furs. Crowds sang the choruses, then somehow forgot the name by merch time. Bean later supplied bass for the first 2 Black Rebel Motorcycle Club albums, where younger listeners finally asked, "Who's the guy shaking the stage?" and worked backward to discover the overlooked catalog he'd left behind. Number 2, Guadalcanal Diary. Athens, Georgia's other jangly export cut its first EP in 1983 for $400 and a sack of guitar strings, then watched college stations spin Watusi Rodeo until the tape stretched thin. Electra signed the quartet in 1985, pairing them with producer Don Dixon. His roomy drum sound on Jamboree lit up CMJ's new music chart, but the record peaked just outside Billboard's Top 150. Touring vans racked up miles, 200 shows in 1986 alone, sharing bills with REM, Husker Du, and the Hoodoo Gurus. MTV liked Litany, Life Goes On, enough for late-night rotation. Mainstream radio, already crowded with John Mellencamp and Tom Petty, passed. 2x4 from 1987 landed glowing notices. Rolling Stone called it the year's best guitar album, outside the top 40. Yet scans topped out around 120,000 units. Singer Murray Attaway's witty stage banter and Jeff Wall's surf twang leads made them club legends. Fans in the Southeast still trade cassettes of their 1989 Variety Playhouse set, where the band covered the Beatles and Your Bird Can Sing at punk speed to a room of 700 who knew every word. They took a bow in 1989, regrouped for a short run in the late 90s, and left behind 4 albums that can still startle anyone who thought Athens produced only one brand of chiming guitar pop. Number 3, The Chameleons, UK. These Manchester outsiders started digging in 1981, pairing Mark Burgess's echo-laden bass with twin guitars that seemed to pour out of opposite horizons. Their first album, Script of the Bridge, 1983, cost about £10,000 to make and reached number 10 on the UK indie chart, yet sold only around 50,000 copies worldwide. Small change beside fellow Northerners like the Smiths. John Peel booked 4 sessions, praising the band's cathedral-sized sound, and American college stations picked up the Down Escalator. But a promised U.S. tour fell apart when their label, MCA's Tiny Static imprint, hit money trouble. Follow-up single Swamp Thing in 1986 did grab medium rotation on MTV's 120 Minutes. Helped by a video shot in a single rainy day behind an abandoned cotton mill. But the exposure came too late. The The sudden death of manager Tony Fletcher that same year knocked the wind out of them, and they split in 1987, just as post-punk's second wave began borrowing their delay-drenched guitar style. Interpol, The Killers, and editors later name-checked the Chameleons as a touchstone. Most fans found the records only after tracing those breadcrumbs back to Middleton. Number 4, Lone Justice. Maria McKee was barely 20 when her powerhouse voice turned Los Angeles bar crowds silent. The band mixed high-speed country twang with raw rock amps, a blend that caught the ear of Linda Ronstadt, who phoned Geffen Records and said, "Sign them before someone else does." Jimmy Iovine produced their 1985 debut, sliding a young Benmont Tench on keys and sneaking Little Steven on background vocals. Critics raved. Rolling Stone put McKee on the cover under the headline, Best Band of 1985. But the lead single, Ways to be Wicked, stopped at number 71 on the Hot 100. And the album peaked at number 56, despite heavy MTV play. Constant touring, opening for U2, then Tom Petty, left the group frazzled. By the second LP, Shelter, from 1986, half the original lineup was gone and sales hovered near 200,000. Respectable, yet far below label hopes. Lone Justice folded in 1987, right before the alt-country tag surfaced. McKee scored a solo hit with Show Me Heaven in 1990, while old live tapes proved the band's full force. 2 Telecasters, slapback snare, and that voice, turning every roadhouse into a revival tent for one blazing night. Number 5, The Del Lords. New York guitarist Scott Kempner left punk cult heroes The Dictators in 1983, called up ex-Blackheart's lead player Eric Roscoe Amble, and set out to build a lower Manhattan answer to Creedence. The Del Lords cut Frontier Days for Enigma in 1984 on a $12,000 budget. Recorded mostly at midnight after the daytime renters cleared out of Battery Studios, and squeezed onto college playlists with How Can a Poor Man Stand Such Times and Live? A switch to EMI America backed the second LP, Johnny Comes Marching Home, in 1986. Rolling Stone gave it 4 stars, yet the record peaked at number 118 on Billboard's album chart, hampered with a planned MTV clip for I'm Gonna Be Around. Ran only twice during 120 minutes. The band's real strength was live work. 200-plus shows in 1987 alone, including a slot opening for Stevie Ray Vaughan, where Kempner broke 2 strings mid-solo and finished on 5. Radio success stayed regional, big spins on WNEW-FM New York, almost none west of the Mississippi. But Springsteen, a fan, pulled Kempner on stage at the Meadowlands in 1988 to sing From Small Things, giving the group its loudest single-night crowd. After 4 albums and 0 gold plaques, they split in 1990. Later Americana acts often cite the Del Lords' straight-ahead twang and tremolo template, even if few listeners remember where it started. Number 6, The Godfathers.
I've been high, I've been low, and I don't know where to go.
Brothers Peter and Chris Coyne formed The Godfathers in South London late 1985. Determined to weld Stax grooves onto Clash-level volume, they pressed debut single Lonely Man on their own corporate image label. 1,500 copies, all hand-stamped, and sold half outside Brixton gigs before Epic Records stepped in with a contract. Birth, School, Work, Death, 1988, cost about £60,000 to cut at Elephant Studios. The title track hit number 38 UK, but fared better stateside, climbing to number 8 on Billboard's mainstream rock chart after Los Angeles' KROQ threw it into heavy rotation. MTV hesitated. The phrase, I'm bored to death, worried daytime programmers, so the clip landed mostly on 120 minutes.
The heroin was the love you gave from the cradle to the grave.
Album sales scraped 200,000 in the U.S., just shy of Epic's break-even, and plans for a larger push died when higher priority acts crowded the schedule. Still, The Godfather's live reputation grew. A 1989 Chicago Metro show ended with Peter Coyne walking the bar top, microphone cable wrapped around beer taps, yelling the refrain until the power was cut. They issued 2 more albums, but grunge's rise shoved their brass-knuckled R&B to the side. By 1992, U.S. distribution dried up. Modern garage outfits from the Hives to Eagles of death metal have nodded to that punchy snare and fuzz formula, a hint of the noise that briefly roared from a band whose biggest hit name-checked life's whole cycle in 4 blunt words. Number 7. King's X.
Music, I hear music, I hear music.
Houston's King's X started as a Midwest bar band called Sneak Preview, but the moment bassist Doug Pennick's 8-string hammered against Ty Tabor's drop D guitars, they knew the suits and synths had to go. Megaforce signed them in 1987. The debut, Out of the Silent Planet from 1988, mixed Beatles harmonies with Sabbath Weight, confusing radio PDs who filed it under Too Heavy for Pop, Too Pretty for Metal. MTV did spin King, yet the album sold only 70,000 U.S. copies.
I know, I'm not crazy, it's going to my head.
Small next to the buzz in musician circles. Pearl Jam's Jeff Ament called King's X the best band in the world in a 1991 Guitar World interview, and Pantera's Dimebag Darrell mailed Ty Tabor a thank you letter for the Dogman riff. It's Love from 1990's Faith, Hope, Love reached number 6 on Billboard's mainstream rock chart. Still not enough to push the record past the 500,000 mark Atlantic wanted before paying tour support. On stage, the trio punched far above club level. Pennick, 6'4", sang roof-rattling gospel tenor, while Tabor bent strings through a Lab Series stack loud enough to shake exit signs. Grunge exploded, borrowing their detuned crunch. Yet King's X stayed cult, moving van to van without the platinum plaque many peers earned on smaller ideas.
Music, I hear music. Music, I hear music.
Number 8. The Rainmakers.
Moses went up to the mountain high.
Kansas City's bar scene crowned Bob Walkenhorst its sharpest songwriter years before Polygram took notice. The trio, first known as Steve, Bob, and Rich, recut local favorite Let My People Go Go for a 1986 self-titled debut. Twangy Telecasters, Bible Belt humor, and a chorus that quotes Go Down Moses over a Chuck Berry backbeat. U.S. rock radio hesitated, but BBC Radio 1 loved the single. It jumped to number 18 on the UK charts while barely grazing Hot 100 bubbling under at home. When the band finally crossed the Atlantic, London crowds sang every word, surprising even the label rep sent to collect returns.
I did not put you here to whine.
Back in the States, Tornado, 1987, reached Billboard number 116 and produced college radio staple Small Circles. Yet national promoters focused on hair metal packages, leaving the Rainmakers in mid-sized clubs. Norway oddly went wild. 1989's The Good News and the Bad News hit number 1 there, leading to sold-out shows in Oslo where Walkenhorst introduced Downstream in phonetic Norwegian, learned from cue cards. Domestic sales never matched that overseas love. Still, Stephen King slipped lyric quotes into 2 novels, and Don Henley once praised Walkenhorst's newspaper short storytelling, quiet nods to a Heartland band that deserved louder speakers in its own backyard. Number 9. Screaming Blue Messiahs.
In the twilight zone, a little baby Flintstone on my own.
London trio The Screaming Blue Messiahs arrived like a petrol bomb in 1983. Bill Carter's Gretsch set on stun, Chris Thompson's slapback bass punching holes, and Kenny Harris flailing a kit held together with duct tape. They signed to Lemmy's old home, Big Beat, cutting debut mini-LP Good and Gone for under £5,000 in a single weekend. John Peel gave Someone to Talk To 4 straight plays and pulled them in for 2 sessions, calling Carter a man who makes one guitar sound like 3 tanks. Moving to WEA, they spent most of 1986 opening for the Cramps, then dropped Gunshy, a record so loud label staff pinned foam under office doors during playback.
You will find in a letter all that I have wrote back.
Single I Wanna Be a Flintstone started as Backstage goof, yet BBC Radio 1 pushed it to number 28 in early 1988. U.S. rock stations barely noticed, though David Bowie did, blurting on MTV Europe that the Messiahs were my favorite band. WEA shipped them across America, supporting Echo and the Bunnymen, but flat tour budgets meant they often slept in the gear van, amps as pillows. The follow-up, LP, Totally Religious, from 1989, reached only number 66 in the UK before internal burnout hit. Carter retreated to southern Spain, the group dissolved, and their scrapyard blues sound slipped quietly into the DNA of later acts like the John Spencer Blues Explosion and the White Stripes. Number 10, Translator.
A lot like I remember you do.
Translator formed in Los Angeles, but found a home in San Francisco's post-punk loft scene, tightening chiming guitars around Stephen Barton's airy tenor. Their 1982 debut single, Everywhere That I'm Not, recorded at the Automat for roughly $7,500, landed on college charts coast to coast, peaking at number 7 on CMJ, while stalling just outside Billboard's Hot 100. MTV gave the low-budget video midnight spins. Listeners swore it was a lost Beatles track until the VJ corrected them. Debut album Heartbeats and Triggers sold about 125,000 copies on Columbia's 415 imprint, helped by relentless touring in a Dodge van they nicknamed the Merryweather. REM tapped them as openers in 1983, and live tapes reveal Peter Buck jumping on stage during encores to strum a borrowed Rickenbacker. Follow-up LP No Time Like Now from 1983 drew raves. Rolling Stone praised the Desert Bright guitar jangle, but Columbia's promo budget shifted to a surging heavy metal roster, leaving Translator with spotty FM ads and shrinking club guarantees. A final album, Evening of the Harvest from 1986, produced by Ed Stasium, featured the moody Holiday, yet radio was knee-deep in Hairspray by then. Translator stepped back in 1987, having brushed greatness without ever quite grabbing the ring. Though modern indie acts covering Everywhere still chase that ringing, sunset-colored chord they hit more than 40 years ago. Number 11, The Silencers. When Scottish guitarist Jimmy O'Neill left new wave hopefuls Fingerprints in 1985, he took his unfinished notebook to Glasgow rehearsal rooms and recruited fellow ex-Fingerprint Cha Burns on Telecaster. The pair wrote Painted Moon in a single afternoon, O'Neill strumming moody minor chords while Burns bent notes through a cheap Boss chorus just to hide amp hiss.
I get a feeling.
RCA signed the group within months, flying them to New York's Secret Sound, where producer Flood tracked the debut A Letter from St. Paul in 1987 in barely 3 weeks. Painted Moon crept to number 26 on Billboard's then-new Modern Rock Index after MTV's 120 Minutes aired its black and white video. But mainstream radio kept its distance, labeling the song Too Dire Straits for the Cure crowd, too Cure for classic rock. Back home, the record managed only a low UK chart entry, yet continental Europe caught on fast. French station RTL made Scottish Rain a staple, and 1988 theater shows in Paris sold out on word of mouth alone. Unusual for a band that couldn't fill London's Marquee Club the same month. A follow-up single, Bulletproof Heart, brushed the lower end of the UK Top 75 in 1989, but RCA US shelved plans for a full stateside tour after promotional budgets shifted toward emerging Seattle acts. The Silencers carried on, releasing albums well into the 2000s and remaining festival favorites in Brittany, where audiences still belt the "oh coda of Painted Moon, loud enough to drown out PA hum.
Says space,
and disappear without a trace.
Number 12, Taiketo.
He's been down every road and been so dead.
New York vocalist Danny Vaughan and Brooklyn guitarist Brooke St. James formed Taiketo in late 1987 after Vaughan's stint with Wasted left him craving a band that balanced arena hooks with AOR polish. Early rehearsals took place in an unheated loft off Canal Street. Demos recorded on a borrowed Fostex 8-track included future single Forever Young, completed with Vaughan's high A-sharp sustained so long the tape shed oxide. Geffen signed the band in 1990, pairing them with producer Richie Zito at Rumbo Recorders. Debut album Don't Come Easy landed April 1991. Slick mix, big chorus, and just enough flash in St. James solos to turn Guitar Mag heads. MTV pushed Forever Young into afternoon rotation, yet the single barely grazed Billboard's Hot 100 recurrence as programmers pivoted to Nirvana and Pearl Jam that same year. Touring highlights included a 1991 Madison Square Garden opener for Whitesnake, where Vaughan, mid-high note, shattered his mic windscreen. House engineers swore they'd only seen that happen with Halford. European audiences proved friendlier. Don't Come Easy cracked the German top 40, and the band headlined the 1992 Monsters of Rock spin-off trek across Spain after Tesla bowed out. Stateside support dried up when Geffen, flush with grunge profits, shelved Taiketo's second record for a year, and by the time Strength in Numbers appeared in 1994, tastes had shifted, and the album sank without a tour. Today, Forever Young survives on classic rock playlists, sandwiched between bigger hair era names. A reminder that timing, not chops or chorus power, often decides who sells platinum and who ends up a cult badge among late-night FM DJs.
You can call me guilty, I want what's mine.
Number 13, Crimson Glory. Five musicians from Sarasota, Florida hit on the idea of power metal opera, then sealed the deal by donning full-face silver masks so bright they reflected the stage spots back into the crowd. Their self-titled 1986 debut, cut for Indie Par Records on a shoestring, sold 40,000 copies in Europe before most U.S. stores ever heard of it. Roadrunner stepped in for 1988's Transcendence, recorded at Morrisound in Tampa, with a budget large enough to rent real choirs and a rack of eventide harmonizers. Singer Midnight reached glass-shattering high F-sharps on Lonely, while John Drenning's twin-lead harmonies nodded to Thin Lizzy and early Queensryche at once. Headbangers Ball spun the Lonely clip after midnight, and Kerrang! Placed the LP in its year-end top 20, yet U.S. radio programmers, already drowning in pop metal, passed. The album still moved roughly 250,000 overseas, spiking in Japan where the masks fitted neatly beside anime robot helmets. A 1989 support slot with Metal Church won over Midwestern clubs, but back home the band found itself eclipsed by grunge before the decade closed. Today, Transcendence keeps popping up on greatest metal albums you missed lists, its high-altitude vocals and layered guitars sounding less like a period piece than a blueprint some newer bands are still trying to decode. Amplifiers hum, hairspray fades, but good hooks don't expire. 13 names, 13 stacks of road-tested tunes. Pull one album out tonight and see if the neighbors ask who that new band is.